Hey guys, welcome to another video. Have you ever wondered how to make an FPV RC car? Well, this video is for you. So this is the setup I have here. It's a PD Racing Magnetron, which has an O3 fit on it. So I just made this case. So this is how it looks like. So let's get into how did I put this all together. So this is running 6S with a flight controller because the O3 has this issue. You cannot run it on full power if you don't arm it. So there are two ways you can go about it. One, you can get an O3 armor, which is basically in here, which there's a YouTuber who did it. So there's a person who did it, and it's an O3 armor. All you do is just plug in your O3, put a battery on, and it'll arm, and it'll be on full power all the time. But for someone who doesn't have that, or some places where you cannot get it, you can use a flight controller. Over here I've used a SpeeDB flight controller, and it's a wing flight controller instead of normal flight controllers that we have. We can use normal flight controllers, but it's more easier with a SpeeDB or like a wing flight controller because you have ports and stuff like that. So right now it is running INAV and not Betaflight. I'll tell you why, because Betaflight is more catered towards quads, you can say. And it works, but it's a hassle. So INAV has rover mode, so it kind of sets everything up for you. It's not different from Betaflight though. So this is the setup I have. So it's also running elrs, so I'll be telling how you put on elrs on it. So the reason why I'm making this video is because I've scoured all over the internet, and I couldn't find where someone explains how to plug a flight controller and arm your rover, kind of. So I haven't done it yet. So I haven't put a GPS on it because this is my first test out, trying out how far it will go, how reliable it is and stuff like that. So let's get into how the flight controller is plugged in, where it's plugged in, where the elrs receiver is plugged in, where the servo goes, where the motor goes, which port you have to take. Everything's going to be explained in this video. All right, so if you look here, this is my elrs receiver. It's under a tape, so I was too lazy to heat shrink it. I should have heat shrinked it, but I just put tape on it. So what you do first is connect the elrs receiver to the R1, T1, 5V and ground pads to the flight controller. So that's the first thing you need to plug it in. And so there's if you see these wires, all of them go to a different wires. So this is the wire for the motor fans. So this, I just plugged it up to one of the 5V port and ground ports. So it goes over there. So on INAV, there is the settings where you have to plug your ESC or your ESC or your motors, because your ESC onto S1 rather than any other port. You can change it, but on the default it's on S1. So if you see here, I've plugged S1 5V ground. So yeah, the wire, I didn't have the correct color for the wire, but if you see closely, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. So the wire over here is the ground. The red one in the middle is the voltage, and the S1 is the signal pin that goes from the ESC So basically on the ESC in the RC car, there's the ground wire, which is this. I'm just gonna use a pointer. So a ground wire is basically this. This is voltage wire, and this is the signal wire. So this white wire is basically what goes into S1 over here. So that's one thing. So the next thing you need to know is servos. So every RC car has a servo, and you'll be confused. I was confused. I don't know about you, but for the ones who were confused, you don't know where to plug this in. Easy. This is why I said a wing flight controller is more easier than a normal, quad flight controller, because it's actually cheap as well. I think it was 35 pounds for this stack. No, yeah, this stack costs 35 to 39 pounds. I did have another smaller one. You can get cheap ones. It doesn't matter which, even if it's F411, it doesn't matter because it's not using any processing. So over here, if you look at it, my soldering's not that good. So it is connected the same way like the ESC. So the ground pin goes. So over here again, I didn't have the right color. So the red one on the end is the ground wire. The one in the middle is the power wire, and then the one at the top is the S wire, the signal wire basically, which is the S1. So these are labeled S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7, and then I think it ends till S11. So there's a lot of ports for it. So if you have more servos, like if you want to do, tilt gimbals, or if you want to put more servos on it, if you want, I don't know, there's a lot of things. Like if you want one more motor on it, yeah, you can put it. So I've connected it to S3. Now I'll tell you why, because on INAV it is connected to the S3 wire, S3 port. So servos are S3s, and also all of this you can make it with an extension like this. So what I've done is taken out pins from one of those, one of the JST plugs, and then I've just soldered this over here. So the other way you can do it is there's a chance you're gonna get something with the flight controller. Basically, you're gonna get those pins like this. So you can connect all of this to the board. What I did was I connected it on the opposite side. So there's a pin in the back which goes to the ESC, and I messed it up. So I put it the other way around, and I didn't have a whole soldering station or heat gun station basically to remove it. It was a pain in the ass. Do not do that. Always check which side you want to put it and then solder it. It's very difficult to solder as well. So over here, this is the ESC for the RC car. I've mounted it sideways. You can put it anywhere else if you want. I just thought sideways would be better. Yeah. So if you can see inside, the red wire and the black wire, that's basically the positive and negative, which goes to the battery. So because this is a 6S which runs on two 3S packs, it basically makes this two 3S packs into a 6S pack, and this goes into the ESC of the RC car. So I've just sliced up a wire, put solder on it, soldered this wire to the negative or the ground pad of the flight controller ESC, and then the positive to the positive side of the flight controller ESC. I have had suggestions saying that you can put a capacitor on it, so I'm gonna try putting a capacitor on it in the near future. So this is the normal wire that connects the O3 to the flight controller, and I would suggest getting something longer if you're mounting it on top of the car, because it has some kind of a slack, like just in case your top comes out. There is also another way, like you can mount the flight controller outside, which can help. So on here, this has a dedicated DJI port, which is this one, and then this plugs in to the DJI port over here. So I'm just gonna plug it in. So I've plugged the DJI wire into it. There's one open wire, which is which connector, which is the one for the fan, which I've gone through this. So I put the DJI connector through here. It comes out from here into there. So that's the hardware bit of it. Yeah, I've stuck the ESC on this to the side walls of the RC car. And yes, I've removed the original receiver on it. So basically, on a normal receiver, what happens is all these will be connected to the receiver, like like you get Spectrum receivers or the RC car receivers. You do have elrs receivers as well, but so since I was connecting a flight controller and I had a spare elrs receiver on, so I just took that. And yeah, all of these basically go connect to the Spectrum or the RC car receiver, because they have pin outs, which I can show you something like this. So this is an ESC from one of my other cars. Yeah, so it plugs into one of those ports. Yeah, so instead of that, we're just going with a flight controller and a normal elrs receiver. I'm using elrs because of the range it gives. So on the receiver that I showed you, I tried this. I tried O3 on this, and it gives me about half a football field length, less than that, and then it just cuts off. So the range is stupid in it compared to drones and stuff. Like, yeah, maybe you may have better range stuff, but I don't think elrs or Crossfire, you cannot beat one of those. Those give more range on it. So let's get on to the part where we program it from INAV. So this is a USB cable for the flight controller. You get it in the pack. So all you do is connect this here, and then you go to INAV. You can download it from the INAV GitHub. Yeah, so sometimes when you connect it for the first time, you may need to update it. So when you buy the flight controller, you do get a instruction manual with it. So keep that with you, or take a photo of it, because that will help you out in the long run. So basically, this is INAV, and then I'm gonna go to screen sharing mode and then show you how it's done.
The flight controller is connected to INAV. So the first thing you should do is go to status, check if everything's fine. Most of the time, these bars will be red sometimes. So a few of the things you have to change, like calibrate the accelerometer before you stick it on. Good thing to calibrate. So that over here there will be a calibrate button. Always save and reboot. It's similar to Betaflight. If you have used Betaflight, it's pretty similar. If you go to the mixer tab, so this is what I was telling you. So when you set it up for the first time, it gives you an option to set it up on a different way. So you can put it as tricopter, rover, boat, whatever. So when you're installing the firmware, you can put it as rover, and then you get this. So this is timers. So basically S1, S2, S3 till S11, basically what I told you before. And like I said, so the default on it is the motor 1 will be on S1 and the servo will be on S3. So if you look at it, motor, servo, all of these I've kept it as default, didn't change anything. You don't need to change anything on it. Next tab is outputs tab. So you go to outputs tab, you should turn this on, so this will be off by defaults, and stop motors on low throttle, keep this on. So most probably these two will be off on default, so you need to keep this on. Let's go to the ports tab. So on here, unlike Betaflight, you usually turn on MSP on DJI, and then you just leave whichever UART you have it. If you want OSD, what I've noticed is that you don't need to turn one of these on. Instead of that, you have to open this one and turn on MSP DisplayPort rather than turning the UART MSP pin on. I don't know if there's another way, but this is how I got my OSD to start working. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, UART 1 will always be the serial RX, so that's gonna be where your receiver is connected. If you go to configuration, there's nothing I've changed here. Another thing to note is always enable motor and servo outputs. This is something that you need because you need motor and servo output, obviously. Yeah, so OSD, you'll need OSD just because you may need to know the battery voltage, or if you're doing GPS or something like that, you can work on that. GPS, this is something I'm gonna do next, so hopefully in a few days. Failsafe tab, I didn't do anything with it. Tuning, nothing. Advanced tuning, nothing. Programming, did I do something in programming? No, nothing. On the receiver tab, yes. So this is where you select serial, because if you're connecting it to ELRS or Crossfire, you have to select serial RX, and then the serial receiver port should be Crossfire, and everything else should be the normal way. So then you go to modes. So on here right now, all I need is an arm switch. I don't need anything else. So all I need is like an arm switch to arm the quad, because that tells the flight control, that tells the O3 air unit to go to full power mode. So I've put that on channel 5. Adjustments, nothing. GPS, nothing. Alignment tools, oh yes, this one. So over here you can change the alignment of the board. So if you move these sliders, you can tell it where it's moving and stuff. So you can move it to different ways. So depending on where you mounted it, you can change it. Mission control, this is the tab I would like to go to. OSD, same thing as Betaflight, like same thing that's on Betaflight. You can change it whatever you want. I didn't change anything on this. So literally that's it. That's all that I've done. Now, oh yeah, video format, go with avatar. Don't go with anything else because it didn't work for me. Yeah, and you'll get this option when you turn on MSP DisplayPort on the ports tab. Now, this is a bit of a problem like that I had faced before. So always check your RX and TX wires. This is a mistake that I've always done.
So this is my Boxer radio. So on here I have a setup for my FPV RC cars. So you can just make a new model on this. This is now my throttle on the RC car. This is going to be my left and right joystick, and this is going to be my throttle and reverse, because when you're flying RC, when you're flying drones, you're not going reverse. So it's more like 3D flying, and I cannot fly 3D with this. So you'll have to be always like putting it in the center to arm it and stuff like that. So instead of that, what I do is put this there. So this is gonna come back to neutral whenever I leave it. So Yeah, it's up to you if you want to make it put it on this side or this side. Doesn't matter. So, gonna plug it in. So INAV, and then it's gonna connect, and then go to receiver tab. So over here, first thing you need to check is if this is working or not. So, since I've changed my throttle, I want my throttle to be something else. I changed the ATER, so it should be AETR. So AERT, or so when I move the throttle, which is this one, pitch moves. That's because I don't want that to be my throttle. I want to change my throttle to be this one. So when I move this, see, the throttle moves. So if you change this helps a lot, because when I was trying to make it, when I was trying to arm it, I couldn't arm it because it thought the throttle was this. So I changed it to this, and now my roll is the same, yaw is the same, everything else is the same. And then I have an arm switch over here. Yeah, that's my arm switch. So another thing is, you may be thinking, oh, okay, when you have done all this and then you've set everything up, you may go to the outputs tab, and when you go to the servo, when you move this, the servo moves left and right. So on here, it's only moving to 1800. So like, if you look at it, so you can go to the CLI and change it. But if you see, when I'm moving the throttle, the motors tab, so basically on the one on top, this one, it's not moving. And you'll be like, why isn't it moving? And then you'll dig your head in. It's because it's not armed yet. So over here, if you look, it's armed now. And then voila. Now you see, it moves. So even on INAV, you need to arm the flight controller to run this, to make the motors move. So now I've disarmed it so it doesn't move. Now it moves. So this is the whole gist of it. Yeah, again, like I said, if you have any errors that come up on the status, you need to watch that, because UAV leveled is another one that you have to be careful about. Navigation is safe, compass calibration, all these won't be a problem. Other than that, everything else should be fine. So that's how you basically run it. So I'll put up a video on how far I went, and I haven't done a full test on it, but yeah. I do have another one with the O3 armor on it. So the thing with the O3 armor, like, is that you don't need to worry about flight controllers, anything. So all it does is just plug into the battery, it starts recording. You don't need to worry about it. But if you are someone who wants, like, let's say waypoint missions and stuff like that, maybe a flight controller will be a good choice. Also, like I said, I have this case for a reason. So today I flipped, I did a few jumps with it, and then it flipped over, which caused this to break apart. But since I've screwed it in and it's tight, it didn't tear off the camera or the battery lead or anything. Yeah, the battery flew off, but other than that, the inside bit of the camera and the camera cable, because most of the time the camera cable is the problem, because if this flies away, you're gonna have problems with this. So camera cable comes out. If you bend a pin, break a pin, that's it for the whole camera unit. Or if it's on the air unit, that's also dead. So another issue you may face with this is when you put the throttle up, it reverses, and when you put the throttle down, it goes forward. So if you want, like, if you have that problem, you can change it on the radio. So when you make a new model, make it like an FPV model. I would suggest go with Joshua Bardwell's videos, because if I make the video, it's gonna be long and it's not gonna be as detailed as he made it. So go to his video, learn how you can check out how to reverse this, reverse the throttle, reverse the pitch, roll, everything on ELRS on the Lua script. So yeah, and how to set up model, you can go to his video, learn how to do it. It's more detailed, explained. It's very good. He's been one of the best persons I've referred to. So I'd like to thank one of my friend, Vern FPV. He's helped me out a lot. Really helped me understand some bits of it, because this is my first time even having an RC car. I've only flown drones, so working on an RC car is a different experience. Yeah, this is how to build an RC car with FPV on it.